Okay, we're going to look at the new headlight here, and after that we're going to do a comparison between the new light and the old ones, and show you what the differences are. And then we're going to discuss what we're going to need to hook it up according to how I've decided. So if we flip this over, you're going to find that you have 3 sets of wires under here, and this I didn't know until I actually got a hold of the unit, and I've labeled them DRL for daytime running light, HH for high beam halo, LH for low beam halo. And what you may not know is right here, see a little square there? That's actually an LED light that I've called the daytime running light, and of course the halos on each one, this being your low beam or standard driving light, and that would be your high beam. And I'll hook these up so that you can see what they look like illuminated. Yeah. There we have the halo for the low beam. There's the halo for the high beam. And that is that little light that I call a daytime running light. There's a lot of glare in the camera so you can't see, but it's fairly bright. And there is one other light right here, which is probably considered a parking light. We'll discuss that a little further when we're in the comparison of the two, the old headlight and the new one, but I'll show you what that looks like lit up. Yes, not very impressive. My plan is to replace that with an LED. Okay, here is the old headlight and the new headlight, and if we do a comparison of the plugs, we'll find that the old plug is this square, rounded square, can't see it too well in the picture, but you'll see it in person, kind of plug. Whereas the new headlight has more of an oblong plug. And the reason for that is after, I don't know if it's either 2000 or 2001, Mercedes made some changes and they switched over to that plug on their headlights. So any new replacement part you buy, you need an adapter. Now this is what the adapter looks like. Now, I was fortunate that mine came with these headlights, which wasn't always true, and to buy a pair of these in an actual Mercedes part is going to run you probably about 60 bucks for the pair, cheapest. I've seen them as high as $100. But I lucked out. These Spider headlights came with the adapter, so I don't need to buy that. Another difference is that for my SLK, though this is a 4-pin plug, only 3 of those pins are used. That 4th one actually goes up to this little parking light that's up there. So if I just use it as is, it will not work. So I'm going to have to run a power line into the plug that's on the car, the jack that's on the car that this will plug into, to add power to illuminate that light. That gives me a lot of options. I can do what I want with it, and we'll talk about that more in a few minutes. Another thing you'll notice is that there's a difference between the turn signal light. Notice this is a 3-pin light, 3-pin connector there, and this is only 2. I don't know if it's because of the European styling, or after 2001 they changed it so that it's this configuration on the American cars. I don't know, but the simple solution is to simply take this off and put it on there. It will fit just fine. Surprisingly, there is no gasket inside the original Mercedes one, whereas there is one inside here. If I can get it off, and I'll move that gasket onto there also, just so it seals up, and that will return this into being the original factory style for the turn signal being up there. As it stands right now, this would function only blink as the turn signal, and your parking light ideally would be going to here. I'm going to do it differently. What I'm going to do is return this to being the same turn signal as original factory. This light here and this light tucked away over there, those two, I'm going to wire them up as daytime running lights. So when I put the key in the ignition, turn it to the on position, these will come on. They will always be on if the key is in the ignition and in the on position. I think that would look good. The halos, you know, like I said, this wiring here, you're welcome to do whatever you want with it. You could cut them off if you want, not use them at all, take the easy way out, just plug this in, switch the turn signal, install the headlight, and you're done. You could wire this up along with the daytime running lights or instead of the daytime running lights, and the halos would be illuminated all the time. You know, if you want to degrade the appearance of your Mercedes so that people think it's a BMW, so be it. I would never do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire these into the parking circuit over here so that when I put on the headlights or the parking lights before the headlights, the halos will come on then. That way, if I want the halos to be on without the headlights, I can just put the parking lights on. That would give me the yellow here, the two halos, and the two daytime running lights. And so this daytime running light will actually come up here and get wired into this harness. Actually, that's why I just removed. I was going to put in a separate plug so I could disconnect it, but no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually solder onto this terminal here and put it back into the jack. I'll be discussing how to remove those from there and then put it back together and just seal it up with liquid electrical tape. This little rubber gasket I put on there myself. It was a pain in the ass, not worth the effort. So, okay, here's our all but finished harness for the lights. You'll notice I have everything wrapped in friction tape. I put in a zip tie down block here. Here I put down silicone to hold them in place. We don't want this stuff rattling around. On my other unit, I'm going to just use zip tie there instead, because the black silicone does not want to stick to this black plastic too well. It does stick to the clear, but it doesn't want to stick to the black. Come around here, this is still two tag ends. I'm going to have to put the connector on there. I'll do that after I dry fit the unit and find out exactly where the connector is going to be placed. In here, covered up in the friction tape, are my waterproof crimp connectors with the waterproof shrink wrap on there. The halos wire comes around, or the daytime running light wire comes around and is tied into the connector there, which I subsequently, after soldering it, getting it into place, putting the connector together. This connector, basically I have no intentions of ever unplugging that one because this is the end that I use. So I wrapped everything up with friction tape, and it'll look actually pretty much like an original part of the vehicle. The only other thing I'll add is I'm going to see about maybe getting a different gasket to go in here, because this stays loose. Either that or I'll just leave it as is. Put a zip tie block on here, and once I plug it in, zip tie it so that there's just no play in the wire for that to open up. But I'll see about a different gasket. And it fit tight the first time, and I guess it immediately wore down the seat inside there with the little tabs that lock it into place. But just as a forewarning, so you expect that. Alright, let's move on to the next step.